And Michelle is from the Garden-Based Learning in CALS and ILR Yang Pan Institute on Employment and Disability Project Coordinator. And you're going to talk about resource mapping, so feel free to elaborate. Thank you, Michelle, for being here.
So I'm a project coordinator, and for those of you who haven't had a chance to work with a project coordinator, we tend to be jack of all trades. So I have been working at Cornell since 2007. I went here for graduate school and then stayed because I liked it so much. But my background is in gardening and in landscape architecture. So of course I love a map. A good map is a wonderful thing. But as a project coordinator, one of the questions I receive a lot is, I need to compile some deck of resources. Help, help, help. And I need it yesterday. So I wanted, as part of the PDLC, I kept hearing from different folks in the room, I'm compiling some list of resources. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to do this. I need help. I need this to be easy. So I thought, I want to look at that issue a little bit more and see what I can do. I do a lot of train the trainer. So my job is to look at the needs of the community, figure out what those trainers need, and try to get that out to them. So a community resource map is really looking at your assets and doing an environmental scan of what you've got. So resources, that's not specific, right? Either is the product. If this is a big picture view, this could be a brochure, this could be a website, this could be a flyer, this could be something specific. So it's a very vague and general process that people find very, very intimidating. So looking at the needs for this specific PDLC, I wanted to be able to help people effectively identify and share the best resources that they could find. Sounds very simple. There's a lot of hidden needs buried in there. So they need something that's simple and prompts them, it helps you remember what steps you need to do and on how to do it. So quickly and efficiently scanning your environments. You don't have a lot of time. Nobody has time anymore. We're all in a hurry. We're all super busy, and we have way too many things on our to-do list. We need to be able to identify what is quality, what is a good recommendation, what is scientifically correct, what is the best research, and how to think creatively as well. Really looking at how we can enhance the quality and the diversity of those assets, both in the audiences that they're considering, as well as the types of materials that are there. So it's not just YouTube videos, it's also scientific publications, it's also brochures. So a diversity of options so that you can cover a lot of different needs. And then updating all of those resource maps, whatever they may look like, in a timely fashion. As you well may know, there are all of those hidden web pages that you probably have way back in your program site that nobody's looked at for 3 or 4 years, and all of the links are back. Right? And that if it's not easy to do, nobody does it. So for the audience, I'm looking for CCE program administrators and staff, volunteers, and community organizations. So this is one of the staff that I work with at a local community organization. And as you see, she, of course, has a huge pile of stuff on her desk. She has no time, and she's not paid. That will often be the person that is going to be using this tool. So it needs to be really simple to use. So the goal is to help people put together that puzzle. They know all of this stuff exists in the community. They know where it is. Or they might have an idea, but they might not have a lot of time to go and do checking. So in the end, what I want to do is empower folks to be able to do this themselves. As a project coordinator, people call me on the TA line and monitor several web boxes, and I get these requests, and often I'm not best suited to do the actual resource mapping for you. I need to teach you how to do it yourself. So this will be a physical guide, both print and will be online, and it's going to help to improve information flow across the system. So helping to negotiate these kind of experiences when you say, Hannah, I've got this great resource over here, and Jemmy, can I connect to you? So trying to facilitate some of that, increasing opportunities for some creative problem solving. So connecting people with what they need to know, articulating the CCE values. I mean, really helping to embrace our communities in all their diversity and provide the resources and materials that they need, and also reflecting out what they create to them so that we're not getting stuck in a silo, and providing that enhanced cohesion across the complex organizational landscape of New York State. It sounds big, but it means we're all going to work together and we're going to share resources. because resources are hard to come by anymore. So my designated activities are pretty simple. I'm going to develop a guide. So right now this looks like a handout. It started with a checklist that somebody needed for me, and they needed it really fast. I would like to develop that checklist into something a little bit more complex, more interesting, and including some of those prompts like, hey, have you thought about, checking in these other locations? Or have you thought about connecting with these other places? So they're prompts. Since I'm across several different programs in the Yangtan Institute and also in CALS, I have the opportunity to pop things into the garden-based learning library and into the box for the extension educators to share. I also have access to the extension educators at Employment and Disability Institute. And you can stick stuff in their box as well, and I'll be looking for opportunities to share and train out on that. I'm developing a user survey, and this is something that's embedded in the tool. And it's just like, hey, provide me some feedback. I would like this tool to be useful. And then surveying a random selection of guide users. So as I go through, I'm sending out that survey for some deliberate feedback. So that planned evaluation strategy, right? One of the things that's complicated in Train the Trainer is sometimes I don't know if people are using it. So I'm looking at counting access to the online guide. That's not always the best way, right? A hard count. And I'm also doing a survey. And what I want to survey people for is confidence in using community resource mapping as a tool. I'm hoping that if I can turn this into some simple checklists and prompts, people will feel better about doing this themselves. Utilizing best practices. So using some of those embedded prompts to look at our diversity and inclusion goals, quality of resource goals, to see whether or not there's actual improvement in how the maps look, the type of materials that are on there, and the quality. Looking at the resource diversity, what types of things are included in the list, so it's not just all scientific publications, but also include some things that might be more brochures or YouTube, so that you get a good mix and you can have people access the resource maps through different types of learning methods. And update frequency. For the tools that I can see, I can look at how often they're improved. One of the goals with resource mapping is to do it on a regular basis. If you make it easier for everybody to do, and there's a simple map that you can hand off to a volunteer, I'm hoping that means that we'll get some more frequently updated sites, not so many dead links, not so many stale brochures. But if you have ideas on how to improve that and get to some more hard data, let me know. And finally, I looked at some interesting resources. My primary resource is the National Center on Secondary Education and Transition. They have a very, very, very good book, Essential Tools Community Resource Map. While it is not topical to CCE, this is looking at transition to adulthood for youth with disabilities, their tool on community mapping was excellent. It helps you identify stakeholders, it talks you through the process, it's got checklists, it's got prompt boxes. It's really, really cool. And it's also 15 years out of date. Like, I don't think we have an equivalent in CCE. I haven't found one. There might be a tool that's in there. But I looked at a couple other places. So the Partnership for 21st Century Learning also has a toolkit on mapping. And then the National Endowment for the Arts has one that's really neat because it uses visual keys to help communities physically and visibly map their resources so they know where to go and not just where to click. So those are really cool. And I have a couple different samples. So if you are curious about where to go to look at some different resource maps, these are ones that I've worked on. So the Garden-Based Learning Library, which is our new tool, it's up on Moodle. And it's a resource map, and that it's collecting resources from all sorts of different extension divisions and departments, and it's putting them all in one place for a certain user set. The United Way 211 phone system, if you've ever used that, you call up and say, I have a need, and they will find you a resource in your community. It's a really awesome tool. It's very expensive. Transition Source is one that's specific, again, to transition to adulthood youth, but this is a Google map. It's a very cheap resource, and they're going to be translating that into 8 different languages. So it's going right straight to the accessibility issues of we need people with different languages to be able to access these tools to provide their children with the information and support they need. And another project I worked on, through State Promise, we had kind of a standard resource library of brochures that was available on a website in English and Spanish, as well as digital download and physical copies. So all of those different types of resource maps really give people a variety of things. And what you would pick would be based on your program. But hopefully, in the end, the tool that I create will be able to help extension educators to make better resources in their community more accessible to everybody. Thanks. Yes.
That's awesome. I hope it'll be useful. Yeah. Would you mind? Could we use a little bit of our question time to look at the first one?
Yeah, if you want, check it out. I'm happy to drive. All right, so let's look at, do you want to look at one of the maps or the tools?
Maps. Oh, sorry.
There you go, the map.
The map? Okay, let's look at the 21st century map, because that one was really fun. Let's see if it'll, does it let you link? Oh, yeah. So here is their really cool asset mapping site. And you can see behind them, they were actually, oh, shoot, I gotta share it. Really teeny tiny. Oh, got it. New share. Okay. Nope, that didn't share. All right, let's share again.
Sometimes the trick is to like totally unshare and then you start.
Try that one. See if that one works. It's just, all right, I'm gonna maybe hide that.
The way I got around to the screen, so I only have one screen and then share the screen.
I'm just gonna get my ideas. Do it. Duplicate.
Did you stop?
Oh, maybe we'll stop sharing and share again? Yeah. All right, we'll share again. There you go. All right.
Now hit share here.
Why
Is
not?
it sharing PowerPoint?
Yeah, it does want to. It only wants to share PowerPoint, and it doesn't want to share anything else. It might.
There you go.
Okay.
Now you just go.
All right. There we go. Here's set here.
There we go.
Hey. So they're using a physical map, and then highlighting things and making them clickable, which is kind of neat. So you could use a community map. And I'll show you the transition source one because that one's kind of fun.
So what kind of things are there on those bubbles? I see library.
Library, rec center. So some of these are based on true community maps. Now Google search does allow you to do, they have a free web API plugin where you can create an Excel spreadsheet of all your resources, whether those are documents or sites, and you can map them on a site, which is neat. So you can map them on a map. Upright. So this is an example of resources by region. So you would put in your zip code, and then it's finding all organizations that are tagged with a particular key. So it would be like, I want composting resources in Tompkins County, and they would give you the 5 different places where you could either compost, find composting information, or you could find compost supplies. Right? You could look at a couple different tags. So the goal with the guide is really to summarize a couple of these different tools for people to be like, hey, this is a type of resource available, and here's how you could build it. Here's some tips. Or here's another type of resource and how you build it and some tips. And then helping folks to think through that a little bit. So, yeah, and what I'm hoping is that it's the teach a man to fish, right? So that instead of having somebody call me up from New York City and be like, hey, I need a list of stuff, and be like, I don't know anything about New York City, and I don't know how far Brooklyn is from Queens, so I can't tell you whether or not this is a good list of things. I don't know, but you know where that boundary is, so I need you to create a map. Because a lot of our projects are looking for places. They're looking for places that give them money, places that give them free training sites, and places where their clients can go to get information that they know is reliable and accurate. One of the problems we've had with this map is that we're allowing people to self-enter If they're self-entering and there's no approval process, we've had some fringy stuff, right? Moving in. And it's like, okay, yes, that is a resource available to parents. It's not a quality resource. So how do we politely put some kind of protection process into some of these publicly available resource maps so that we know that that Cornell name is not accidentally getting associated with some kind of fringe research done by a not very researchy lab? It's not very appropriate.
As an aside, Cornell has a cardo.com license that can be, Cardo is a mapping program
Oh, very cool.
that you get in touch with Keith Jenkins in Mad Library, and
Absolutely.
he can give you access to Cardo as a Cornell CARTO. And when you go to cardo.com, it asks you if you're on a Cornell computer, it'll ask you if you're part of Cornell and did you want to log in with your Cornell Net ID. But you need to get permission from Keith first
And put you on the list.
to set you up with it.
Absolutely.
And he is collecting all sorts of maps and he can help with mapping problems. I email him all the time.
I like
We have compost facility maps that have lots of facilities throughout New York State. And they started long ago, they've evolved. Mary now populates those, and she's the one that puts everything.
Right.
She'll reach out to somebody, or somebody will reach out to us and say, we want to be on the maps, so that people will know where, like if I need fish waste compost, I could find that on a map and be able to go and get
Sort of.
that.
Cardo's a little limited in what you can't search by, the only search engine is the regular Google search, whatever the base map is. So on the map, I have some instructions that say, if you're looking for, compost facility near Rome, New York, make sure you type in Rome, New York. So if you type in Rome, you're going to Italy.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Because it's going to bring up the first Rome.
Yeah.
So, but it will then zoom in, and then you can scroll over, because each of the dots has a scroll box and a click box. So you can't specifically search for fish waste compost, but it's a little limited in its search capabilities, but it's a Cornell-based tool. So the Cardo is not a Cornell-based tool, but Cornell has a site license. Ag and Life Sciences has a site license, or maybe well, it can't be. It's CALS. Well, because man is part of CALS. Yes.
Yeah.
So so there's a site license there, and you just have to keep, and he can put you on the list. And like I said, Hannah alluded to the fact that they're going to lose funding. CETA is probably going to lose funding, but we would like all of our material to stay there. So that's why we've been putting a lot on e-comments. But he assured me that map, even though it'll be static at that point, will always be there and be around, because he collects the maps.
I think that's an important thing to include in this guide, though, is that legacy conversation. Be like, who owns your map when you're not there anymore?
Right.
Because a lot of times if somebody leaves, and then who's got access to that box account? I don't know. I don't want to delete it because I don't know if it will disappear.
Right.
So I still have all the small farm stuff, even though it's been 8 years now since I was in the small farms team, but I don't want to delete that box account because I'm not sure where it would go.
Right.
Right. And
Exactly.
and it's trying to get things out of some of those silos.
And there's lots of good stuff out there. We need to make sure people can access.
So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. Good.
Thank you
That's
everybody
great.
for feedback.